Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaihevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome all the devotees to our ongoing study, Bhakti Sastri, and we're studying Bhagavad Gita, right? Unit 1. This is lesson number 7. Is it?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes? Okay. Lesson number 7. Everyone can see the slideshow?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. All right, so the title of the slideshow today, the lesson today, Varnashram Dharma, a support to Krishna consciousness. Oh, let's go back. Okay, wait. Revision. In the last class, we talked about the appearance of Lord Krishna and his mission to establish Dharma, and the ultimate principle of Dharma, surrender to Krishna. So Lord Krishna's mission in coming into the world to establish Dharma, and what is that Dharma? The ultimate Dharma is to surrender to Krishna. Then we talked about under what circumstances following Varnashram Dharma is necessary. Does anyone remember under what circumstances is following Varnashram Dharma necessary? Who can tell us?
For those who are not...
Yes, Maraji?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj, for those who are not liberated.
Right, that's right. Those who are not liberated yet, then they have to follow Varnashram Dharma. And what qualifications are required for beginning the practice of Krishna consciousness?
No qualifications except sincere will.
Except what?
No. Will or sincerity.
Sincerity, yes, the sincerity to practice and to follow the process and to take instructions. All right? And then we talked about the results of following Varnashram Dharma in comparison to the results of Sanatan Dharma. Would anyone remember? What was some of the results of following Varnashram Dharma?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, following Varnashram Dharma, we can uplift, like the one person can uplift himself even to the heavenly planets. But following Krishna consciousness, one can uplift to the spiritual world. And even Kshatriya can become Brahman while following Varnashram Dharma. And while following Sanatan Dharma, one can get free from even sinful acts, Krishna consciousness.
By following Sanatan Dharma, we
Yes.
can get free from sinful reactions. Okay, yes, good. Varnashram Dharma is like the stepping stones, right?
Yes.
Stepping stones leading to where?
To Sanatan Dharma, to spiritual world.
Well, not
To
exactly.
get transcendence from the material world.
Varnashram Dharma are stepping stones to self-realization.
Yes.
Okay, and then finally, the practice of Krishna consciousness is transcendental to Varnashram Dharma. In other words, Krishna consciousness doesn't depend on any particular Varna or ashram. One can practice Krishna consciousness in any position. All right? And then, okay, so here is Arjuna's arguments against fighting, compassion, enjoyment, sinful reactions, and destruction of the dynasty. And Krishna defeated these arguments. We see Krishna's different arguments: Gyan, Karma Kanda, Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga, and Karma Yoga. And the different places in the 2nd and 3rd chapter where these arguments are given to defeat Arjuna's arguments. So Krishna was establishing the need to practice. All right, now Varnashram Dharma, an example for society in general. It's important. The example should be there. This is Varnashram, one of the important points, the purposes of Varnashram, that it helps people to show a good example. We need to show an example to people, how to properly act, how to behave. It's all very important. So, Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes, a self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work. This is from the Bhagavad Gita 3:18 to 20. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. This is like Lord Krishna instructing Arjuna the importance of showing the right example. Do your prescribed duties. There's no reason. He's a self-realized person, one who is actually situated on the transcendental platform, is self-realized. So he has no purpose to fulfill. He doesn't want to get anything. There's no reason for him to do his duty, but there's also no reason for him not to do it. So how should we understand that? Therefore, for the sake of educating the people in general, you should do your work. You should do your work. Why? Because it shows the right example. To educate the people, to see the right example. They need to see people acting proper. And then they will say, oh, just like he did, we should also do. So each of the different varnas and ashrams, they have their different duties. And we're expected to act according to the positions in these different varnas and ashrams. We have to show the example. It's one thing to teach people and to talk to them and tell them do this. But if you don't show the right example, what is the good? It's useless. I always give the example about the teacher who always would tell us, don't smoke. But the teacher smokes. So the teacher's smoking, but he's telling the students not to smoke. So what are the students supposed to think? Why is he telling us not to smoke when he smokes? And there's another pastime, not Prabhupada, but one senior devotee, he always tells the story about the boy who was fond of eating sweets. So the mother took him to the doctors, and she asked the doctor, "Can you tell my son not to eat sweets?" So the doctor said, "Okay, come back in a week." So the lady went away, and she came back with her son after a week. And then the doctor said, "Don't eat sweets." So the lady said, "Why didn't you tell him that last week?" The doctor said, "Well, last week I also eat sweets. So if I'm going to tell him not to eat sweets, I have to do it myself. I can't tell somebody to do something which I'm doing myself. I can't tell them not to eat sweets if I eat sweets." So the same here. For the sake of educating the people, you should perform your work. You should work. We should show the example. Not to just enjoy the results, but just for the sake of doing your duty. That is the idea. So that is karma yoga. That is detached work. When you do your duty in a detached manner. That is actually karma yoga. 325. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. And so ignorant people, uneducated, common people, they do their duties, and of course they want to enjoy. They're attached to the results. They want to enjoy the results of their work. But the learned, those who are educated, self-realized, they will do it. They will do their work without attachment, and they're doing it for the sake of leading people on the right path. So we have to show that example. There has to be this example of detached work. And then other people will be inspired to follow. Text 22, 3rd chapter. O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the 3 planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. So here you can see Lord Krishna is giving himself as an example. Krishna says there's no reason for him to work. He's the proprietor of the 3 worlds. Everything belongs to him. So he's not in need of anything. He doesn't want anything. But he's engaged in doing his different prescribed duties. When he lived in Dwarka, he would go to the palace in Dwarka and he would attend to the affairs. What is going on? What are the needs? What has to be attended to? He was very dutiful. He would carry out his different responsibilities with great care. He would even go around the kingdom and make sure everyone was performing their duties properly. And so this is the duty of the king or the ruler. He didn't have to do it, but he did it because he wants to show the example to others. Right? From the purport of text number 22, 3rd chapter. Although such rules and regulations are for the conditioned souls and not Lord Krishna, because he descended to establish the principles of religion, he followed the prescribed rules. Otherwise, common men would follow in his footsteps, because he is the greatest authority. So Lord Krishna gave himself as an example, and there's another example also given in the 3rd chapter. Who else followed? Who else showed the example? He didn't need to do anything. He was already self-realized. Yes, right, Janaka Maharaj. Janaka Maharaj is a great king. he would give charity, and he would give charity profusely, and so much that people couldn't take even all the charity which he was giving them. And when there was disturbances in the kingdom, then Janak was there. He would come out and he would fight and he would chastise the people who were disturbing the law and order in his kingdom. But he didn't have to do all those things. But he did it because he wants to show the example. He's one of the Mahajans. So common men follow in the footsteps. Lord Krishna says, if I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population. So can you understand this point which is being made here from the 24th verse of the 3rd chapter? Krishna is saying, I would be the cause of creating unwanted population. Now what did Arjuna say earlier about unwanted population?
Yes, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Arjuna mentioned one of the reasons he shouldn't fight because there'll be loss of family tradition, and in the end it would lead to unwanted population.
Yes, right. Arjuna was arguing that if I fight, it will be the cause of unwanted population. But here, Lord Krishna is saying, if I don't fight, if I don't do my duty, that will be the cause of creating unwanted population. So just the reverse of what Arjuna was understanding. Arjuna was arguing in favor of not fighting. But Lord Krishna is saying, well, if you don't fight, that will be the cause of unwanted population. All right, so you can understand how Lord Krishna has defeated all the arguments of Arjuna. He's an expert teacher and politician, and he's really destroyed all of Arjuna's arguments. And here's this wonderful verse, very famous verse. We often see this verse in the newspapers, and maybe there's an obituary, somebody left the body, and they'll put a picture of some big businessman, some great magnate, the head of a corporation, and they'll put this verse beside it. And they'll say, whatever actions a great man performs, common men follow. So, acharati shrishtas, the respected person, the shrishta, respected man. And then the jana, the common men will follow. So who are actually the respected men? Who are the great men? We should understand who is actually great. It's not that somebody is great just because he built a big business empire and made a lot of money. Made a big business. Business is often based on a lot of lying and stealing and cheating. If we were to examine the lives of so many great businessmen, we'll find that in the course of their lives there were so many incidents where they did many things which were not quite legal. Anyway, that's another topic. But we tend to find that people come up in the world, in the material world. They come up in the world because they're very expert in business, and business is often based on that kind of thing. A lot of cheating and corruption and finding ways to go around laws. Anyway, we do need great men, we do need important people to show the right example, to influence the common people. And whatever standards he sets by his acts, all the world pursues. Prabhupada, in talking about this verse, he would tell the story about the laundryman who had a donkey. And the donkey was called Sargosing. Sarvasing or Sargosing. And so this laundryman had a donkey, and the laundryman was very attached to his donkey. But when the donkey died, the man was so afflicted that he shaved his head. So it's customary in Hindu society, when somebody senior in the family leaves the body, it's customary for the family members to shave their head. So this laundryman decided he would shave his head. And after he shaved his head, then he continued with his work, and he went to his different customers. And he met customers, and there was a couple of soldiers he met. And the soldiers asked him, "Oh, what's wrong? Why have you shaved your head?" So the laundryman said to them, oh, you don't know? You don't know? Sargo Singh is dead. And so the two soldiers who heard this, they thought, oh. And the two soldiers, they were so impressed by the laundryman that they thought, oh, we better also go and shave our head. So the two soldiers shaved their head, and then they went back to the military base, and all the other soldiers saw the two soldiers with the shaved head, and they asked them, "Why have you shaved your head?" And the two soldiers said to them, "You don't know? Sargo Singh is dead." And so all the soldiers, when they heard this, "Oh, Sargo Singh is dead," they all went and shaved their head. And in this way, all the soldiers shaved their head. And so then it happened, the next day the king came to inspect all of his army. And he was very surprised to see all of his soldiers all had shaved heads. So he was asking, what happened? Why has everyone got a shaved head? And all the people, all the soldiers looked at the king, and they all said in unison, "You don't know? Sargo Singh is dead." And the king looked at his ministers and looked at his officers around him, and he said to them, "Who is Sargo Singh?" And they were scratching their head. They said, "We don't know. We don't know who Sargo Singh is. Who's that?" And so they asked these two soldiers. They found out these two soldiers had brought the news, Sargo Singh is dead. So the two soldiers went back to the laundryman, and they asked the laundryman, "Who was Sargo Singh?" And the laundryman told me that was my donkey. So like this, sometimes you get, blind people follow the blind, we say. The blind people follow the blind. So we do want to follow, but we have a tendency to follow. We want to follow the great men, the Shreshtas, the actual authorities, actual pure and powerful men who can do things by proper standards, who set the right standards and perform the activities which are a good example for others. We want to follow them. Just like it says, Mahajano yena gata sapanta. Follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans. The Mahajans, we want to follow them. Who are the Mahajans? Who are the great men? So we have to know. Not just people who are good at business, but people who actually know the real standards for civilized society. So this is important. This is Varnashram Dharma, to show an example for people. Srila Prabhupada is Acharya, ideal teacher. So a little exercise with you. We want you to discuss with a partner. How many people have we got here today?
45, Maharaj.
45. All right, so you have to make some, everybody has to have a partner, or there will be one group of 3. And we want you to discuss a recent incident where others followed your example. And then what was the result for those who followed your example? Right? Think about this. A recent incident where others followed your example. And what was the result for those who followed your example? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah? Okay, we'll give you a few minutes to discuss this.
Is it okay? We'll take 5 minutes, Maharaj.
Well, all right. Yeah, give you 5 minutes. No more than 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Can you think of an example? Where
Yes, Maharaj. It's not that recent, but around a year ago, my classmate, he actually saw that I was only eating vegetarian food and avoiding onion and garlic. So he also slowly started to avoid non-vegetarian food, and slowly now he only eats vegetarian food, as well as he avoids goods like onion, garlic, mushrooms, and stops caffeine and everything.
Wow. Did he start to chant? Did he start to chant Hare Krishna?
Unfortunately, not right now. He started joining some Krishna classes here, the youth Krishna classes. So hopefully he will.
Okay, good. So that was a nice example, yeah.
It's fine.
Did you ever follow anybody's example?
Of course, Maharaj. I follow my parents in our our Bhakti Krishna conscious practices. Of course, I follow my parents and other senior devotees as well.
Okay.
And also kirtans, programs such that.
Yeah. Yeah, we all tend to follow others. We have that tendency, we like to see an example. It's important for us. We get inspired and we see people get very enthusiastic. Sometimes we see them go out to distribute books, and then we think, I should also go out and try and distribute books, And sometimes you see people, one person starts to dance in the kirtan, and one person starts to dance and everybody else starts to dance, It's contagious. So we like to follow the example. We just have to be careful about who we follow, whose example we follow.
Yes, of course.
I saw one movie one time, there was a script, they showed people inside a train and everyone was sitting very silently, and all of a sudden one person started to laugh. And when one person started to laugh, he was just laughing, and gradually other people all started, and the whole train, after a while, everybody in the train, they were all laughing. So, things are, everything is contagious, Happiness can also be contagious. We can share it with others. Okay, so thank you very much for association.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Maharaj, we still have 1.5 minutes to go.
Oh, okay. 1.5 minutes to go.
Maharaj, also I wanted to share something else that me joining the Bhakti Sastri course, because I actually followed my younger sister. She also joined the Bhakti Sastri course as well. So I also thought, why not? So that is why I joined the course actually.
What, your younger sister joined first?
Yes, she actually joined first. Like I had my some big exams right now, so I wasn't able to join. But then with my parents, she got along and she joined the classes. And so I thought, why not? So I also joined the class.
Oh, okay. Did your parents also do the course?
Yes, my parents did.
Wow, wonderful. Yeah, it's good for us to have nice examples to follow.
Yes, Maharaj.
So not everybody is so fortunate to have the good examples. People are often influenced by others, just like things like smoking and drinking, gambling. People are also influenced to these things by association.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, it looks like they're all coming back now.
Yes, Maharaj. I'll take my leave, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Recording in progress.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, welcome back everyone. So, we'd like to know what you discussed. Did you get any good examples? Yeah, who would like to share with us?
Yes, Nitya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So we were two people. So one example was that in our travel, Prabhuji led the way, and he knew about the journey and probably experience. So everybody followed him, and it ended up to be a smooth travel. So since he was aware, so that went good. And from my side, I don't have anything much, but yeah, I have two kids, so they follow me whatever I do. So if I lead a good example, they do get impacted, and they try to do that. If I ask them to do, they might not do, but if I'm reading something, they get interested to do it. So.
Oh, very nice. Right. So you're very conscious to show a nice example for them.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
And lead them back home, back to Godhead.
Yes, Maharaj, we'll try for myself.
Yes. Anybody else like to share with us?
You, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. I wanted to share a very recent experience of myself since I've been following ISKCON for quite some time. So there are some friends of mine, a bunch of them, who have stopped eating non-veg and have started chanting also, seeing me that how I've been, transformed over a certain period of time and the quality of life that I am leading. And they have seen me since my college days, that how I used to be an angry, teenager kind of a thing. And now I'm quite calm, composed, and always smiling and happy, spreading joys to everyone, and not much deviated from the problems of life. So they've, observed me, and now they have, when they asked me, you tell that how you transformed yourself. I always told them about Krishna consciousness, and the very first step they have taken is they've stopped eating non-veg and started chanting also.
Ooh.
So that was from my side. And my partner was Pran Rupa Mataji. She was running her own business, and she stopped that and become fully devoted to the service in the temple. And by seeing her, one of her staff also, got inspired, and she also started, not full time, but started some sort of service in the temple.
Oh, very
That's
good.
from both of us.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. So certainly we see it's very common in the world among us that we do have that tendency to be influenced by others and follow their example. You know, there are so many things like fashion, which people are influenced by fashion, what's the latest fashion, and people want to follow that. And even Prabhupada's hat, you can see that picture, Prabhupada's hat. And so in Prabhupada's time, it became common for devotees to get a hat like Prabhupada. They wanted to wear Prabhupada's hat. And of course we would wrap a chadar like Prabhupada, we would follow Prabhupada. Okay, we'll go ahead. Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. One who teaches in that way is called Acharya, or the ideal teacher. Yes, if we're going to teach, it's important. We have to behave properly. That's the first thing. So it's not just knowing, but we also have to show the right example, the proper behavior. The king, or the executive head of a state, the father and the school teacher are all considered to be natural leaders of the innocent people in general. All such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. So the king, or the head of the state, the father, the school teacher, they're all leaders. So everyone has some kind of responsibility. We all have a duty to show the proper behavior, the proper actions to others. When Prabhupada was arranging to meet with Indira Gandhi, at that time Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India, then Prabhupada wanted to impress on Indira Gandhi, to impress on her the importance that all the members who sat in the Senate, who sat on the Parliament, he said they should all be twice initiated Brahmanas, and they should all strictly follow the 4 regulative principles. So that was Prabhupada's plan to introduce proper behavior among the leaders in India, and the government in particular. He wanted that the country should become God-conscious, and it's important for the leaders to show the right example. If the leaders are good, then it can influence everyone else. If the leaders themselves are corrupt, if they're full of all bad habits, then what are the common people supposed to think? I heard recently there was an incident in England. The Prime Minister of England, he had a party in his residence. I think he was residing in where the Prime Minister of England is supposed to live, and he'd held a party there. There was a lot of alcohol and everything. And so, that was the standard of behavior for the head of the country. It's not the proper behavior, it's not the kind of example you want to set for others. Rather, the leaders, they have a duty to show the right actions, the proper behavior. Otherwise, their position as leaders is useless. It cannot have any good effect. We say the blind follow the blind. And if you follow a blind man, you go in the ditch. We have to follow people who have clear vision. So it's a great responsibility to accept a leading position. A few weeks ago we celebrated Ramayana, and there's a pastime which is there in the Ramayana that warns about the responsibility of being a leader. It said, if you are responsible for the care of cows, or if you are responsible for the care of deities, Or you may be responsible for the inmates in an ashram. So there are 3 positions of leadership, 3 roles where a great responsibility is placed on the person in charge. One is taking care of cows, the other taking care of deities, and the other is taking care of devotees, if you like, or holy people, people who have renounced the material world. So it's a great responsibility to look after these people. And if we don't take care, if we don't look after them properly, then the reactions are very severe. If you have cows and you don't take care of the cows, it's very serious. It's a big offense, because the cows are close to human beings, and the cows are like our mother, and they provide milk, which is so important for the world. And the deities are non-different from God. And if we don't take care of the deities properly and worship them properly, keeping all the standards, the cleanliness and the punctuality, then it's very disgraceful and it will bring severe reactions. Sometimes we see places where there was a temple and the deity was not properly worshipped. Sometimes the whole town or the whole village will just be annihilated, will just be destroyed. There'll be a plague or a famine or a drought or something, because they didn't take care of the deity. They didn't worship the deity properly. And you may be taking care of an ashram, then that's also a very big responsibility. So taking care of people, having people depending on you, you have to be a good leader. You have to go out of your way and do everything required to look after them and to take care of them. So being a leader actually means to be the servant leader. Not the master leader, but the servant leader. That's how we properly lead, by serving. Okay, so the responsibility there. Prabhupada explains, there must be first-class men. First-class men. So there must be one class of men, first-class men, ideal, that people will learn that here is an ideal class of men. Let me try to imitate or follow them. But there is no ideal men now, at the present moment. Everyone is Sudra. Kalo Sudra Sambhavaha. Then how the society will be happy? It is not possible, because there is no ideal man. So here, Krishna says that we should create, we should educate a section of men who are Brahmana, by guna and karma, not by birth. Then society will be happy. So this Krishna consciousness movement is that for the time being, we are trying to create a section of men. Trying to create a section of men. What kind of section of men do you think Prabhupada is trying to create?
First class.
Brahmanas.
Yes, first-class Brahmanas. By guna and karma, not by birth. Birth may be an advantage, but it is not just by birth alone. We have to have also the qualities, and we have to work like a Brahmana. We cannot just simply claim, by birth I am Brahmana. So that is not actually Brahmana. Birth, it may be an advantage, it may help one, but still you have to develop the qualification. So Prabhupada saw the need that Kali Yuga, Prabhupada quotes Shastra, Kalo Sudra Sambhavaha. Everyone is a Sudra, everyone is low-born by birth. So, how can there be ideal class of men? So we have to educate people, we have to train people to be brahmanas. So getting proper education, spiritual education, to cultivate character, to cultivate the good qualities, that is what's required. It's not enough just simply have the birth. Okay? Yes, somebody can read this for me?
Yes, Sridhar.
Detached attitude to the attached. Through fruitive activities and sense gratification regulated by the Vedic rituals, one is gradually elevated to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a realized soul in Krishna consciousness should not disturb others in their activities or understanding, but he should act by showing how the results of all work can be dedicated to Krishna. Bhagavad Gita 3.26 purport.
Thank you, Mataji. All right, so fruitive activities and sense gratification regulated by Vedic rituals were gradually elevated to Krishna consciousness. So that will take time to come to Krishna consciousness that way. Through fruitive activities and regulating sense gratification by Vedic rituals, gradually elevated. It's going to take a long time. But a person who is actually realized in Krishna consciousness should not disturb others in their activities or understanding. But he should act by showing how the results of all work can be dedicated to Krishna. So one who is in Krishna consciousness should show the example of dedicating everything to Krishna. In other words, he has to be detached. So the devotee shows the detached attitude, and he shows that detached attitude to the people who are not yet devotees. They're not yet devotees, they're attached. So this is how the devotee can preach to the non-devotees. By his own example of being detached, he can show the example to those who are attached. And as we heard from you yourself, some of you were saying, you're describing, that when people saw you become a vegetarian, they also wanted to become vegetarian. This is common. It's a common thing. All over the world. You get people, they go to work and they bring their lunchbox with them. They're devotees and they bring their lunchbox with them. And the people who are there in the office, they see the devotee's lunchbox and they're envious. They think, oh, you've got so many nice things to eat. You know, the other people, they're going to eat in some greasy fast food restaurant. They don't get anything very nice or very tasty or pleasing. That rather everything will be very expensive and unpalatable. But people will go there, they'll go and sit in these restaurants or in these different canteens, and they will eat these terrible foodstuffs. And they will think, oh yeah, they're thinking, well, there's nowhere else. And then the devotee, they see the devotees eating Krishna prasadam, and then they're immediately attracted. And young children go to school, they bring their prasadam, and the other children see the devotee, the devotee children with their prasadam, and the other children, they all want to have some of the devotees' prasadam. This is going on everywhere. So devotee wants to show the right attitude, We have to be detached. We know other people are attached. Well, we just do our duty. We just practice Krishna consciousness. And just by being detached, that's the best preaching to these other people who are attached, showing them how we should properly live. Prabhupada gives an example here. Oh, this is from the 18th chapter, but Prabhupada's talking about the detached attitude to the attached. So Vivaha Yagna, the marriage ceremony, it is meant to regulate the human mind so that it may become peaceful for spiritual advancement. For most men, this Vivaha Yagya should be encouraged, even by persons in the renounced order of life. Sannyasis should never associate with women, but that does not mean that one who is in the lower stages of life, a young man, should not accept a wife in the marriage ceremony. So we have the example how Srila Prabhupada went to America. So as a sannyasi, he saw young people coming, young men and young women, and he saw that they were actually meant to be couples, they were meant to be married to each other. But who was going to do the marriage ceremony for them? So Prabhupada, although he was a sannyasi, Prabhupada arranged to do the marriage for them. He didn't tell them, oh, this is Maya, no, you shouldn't get married, no, this is Maya. He saw their nature and he encouraged them, let them get married. But he himself, of course, as a sannyasi, he didn't associate with women. But for the young people, young men, young couples, let them get married, have a marriage ceremony, and do the marriage. And Prabhupada sometimes would do the marriage even. In the beginning of a society, there was no one else there to perform the ceremony. So Prabhupada would do it himself to encourage the others. Let them be encouraged to take up Krishna consciousness. And so married life is another responsibility. I need to show the example that Prabhupada wanted our devotees would show an example to others. So in family life also, devotees should be an example to other couples. Here you can see the picture of the 4 varnas, the Brahman, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, the Sudra. So Prabhupada writes, so far we are concerned, Krishna consciousness, so long our bodily concept of life is not completely eradicated, we must follow the swadharma of the body. We must follow the swadharma, the original nature of the body. So somebody by nature is a Brahman, Kshatriya, somebody's a Vaishya, someone's a Sudra. But when actually advanced, that is Mahabhagavata. Right? So in the beginning, we have to recognize the basic nature of the body, their propensity for work, what can they do, what kind of occupation is suitable for them. So someone by nature, they like to study, they like to worship the deities, they're very inclined to this kind of work. That is Brahmana. Or sometimes we would say the intellectual class. And then you have the Kshatriya, who are the managerial and administrative class of people, who like to guide and order and get people to do things, lead them and control them. And the Vaishya is the businessman, the mercantile nature. He's always thinking, buy, sell, make money. And the Sudra is a worker. But when actually advanced, that is Mahabhagavata. When one is actually advanced, then he's a great devotee. And he's very attached to hearing the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and preaching Krishna consciousness everywhere. So there are different kinds of people. Everyone should be engaged according to their different nature. Prabhupada writes, we should not imitate that, but our process is the more we advance in Krishna consciousness, we become transcendental to this bodily concept of life. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. So we want to become transcendental to these things. Right? This is on the material platform. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. But as we advance in Krishna consciousness, then we transcend these designations. So this is important to understand. Krishna consciousness is transcendental to Varnashram. So this is from Bhagavad Gita to chapter 2, text 31. Varnashram.
Recording in progress.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay? No? Hare Krishna?
Yes, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna? Yeah, you can hear me? Yeah?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, so we're speaking about Devi Varnashram Dharma. Prabhupada explains, there must be the 4 divisions. In the social order of the present day, there is no Brahmana, no Kshatriya. Only there are some few Vaishyas and Sudras. So therefore, there is chaos all over the world. So the creation of these 4 divisions is very good for the society. And just like we see in a socialist environment, socialism, where there's a socialist country, then everybody is simply Sudra. It's a movement of Sudras. And in the Western world, you have a lot of people trying to be Vaishya and Sudra. But we don't have any real Kshatriya or Brahmanas. But they're very much required. So Prabhupada said, because there's only Vaishyas and Sudras, that's why there's chaos all over the world. So this Krishna consciousness movement is meant for creating some real Brahmana. At least there may be head, right? The Brahmana is the head in the social body. The Kshatriya are the arms. The Vaishya are the belly, and the Sudra and the legs. So if you simply have a belly and legs, you don't have any arms, you don't have any head, then what kind of body is that? It's useless just to have legs and a belly. So Prabhupada said, at least there may be head. So there is need of some Brahmana who can give advice to the people how to live, how to become God conscious, how to become happy. There is great need of this movement. From Bhagavad Gita 2, verses 2 to 6. Prabhupada's preaching in Ahmedabad in 1972. So there's a great need to teach people how to organize society, how to live, how to become God conscious. People People need to be given this kind of education, this kind of advice. Who's going to do it? If there are no brahmanas, then there's nobody there to give the advice. And there's nobody to show the example. So this is the problem we're facing today. So Daivi Varnashram Dharma, giving everyone a chance to take on the responsibilities, to become Brahmana and to become Kshatriya like that. Everyone has some duty to serve Krishna. So our movement is for creating people who can become Brahmanas. In the Kali Yuga, there are no real Brahmanas. So Krishna consciousness movement is meant for creating a class of people who can do the work of the Brahmana. Prabhupada writes, this is like an emergency situation. In the Kali Yuga, it's an emergency. There are qualified Brahmanas, so who can do it? Anyone who will take up the responsibility, they can become Brahmana. Anyone can become Brahmana.
Continue, Prabhu.
Of course, they should be truthful. Like Sanatana Goswami quotes from the scriptures, that just like bell metal process. So anyone who is properly initiated and trained by a bona fide spiritual master can become a Brahmana. The question is, who wants to become a Brahmana? Who wants to be properly trained as a Brahmana? So when Prabhupada went to America, you may have heard, he met this one man, there was this one man named Allen Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg was a beat poet. He was from the hippie era. And he was a poet, and he wrote a famous book, which he won an award for. His book was called How. So he was an author, and he was a poet, and he was a leader of the young people. And so he had been to India, and he knew the chanting of Hare Krishna, and he knew about Brahmanas, and he met Prabhupada, and actually he helped Prabhupada. He gave Prabhupada money to help him to secure his residency in USA in the beginning. So he was very helpful to Srila Prabhupada. Anyway, he said to Prabhupada, he said, oh, you want to make Brahmanas? He said, really? He said, that would be very difficult. You know, Allen Ginsberg was a very much a rebel of the society. And he had long hair and beard, and he spoke about all kinds of hedonistic activities. In other words, he encouraged sense gratification. And so he told Prabhupada, he said, is it really possible to make Brahmanas? It must be, aren't you being very conservative to try to make Brahmanas? And Prabhupada explained to him, he said, well, qualification of the Brahmana is they have to follow 4 principles. Allen Ginsberg, he was thinking, oh, there must be many principles. But Prabhupada said, no, 4. They just have to follow 4 principles. And if they get these 4, then they can go on to become Brahmanas. Of course, just to follow 4 principles is difficult for people today. For Prabhupada, it was not difficult, because Prabhupada's whole life had never even tasted tea. So, for children who are born in the Krishna consciousness movement, then they're fortunate that they've had the proper upbringing, and they can easily go on to become Brahmanas, and from Brahmanas they can go on to become Vaishnavas. So that's what's required. Daivi Varnashram Dharma is to create Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas will go on to become Vaishnavas. And here's the verse from the 18th chapter. By worship of the Lord, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. We don't have to do anybody else's work, just do our own work, and we can become perfect. You see in the picture, this is the florist, Sudama, giving the garland to Krishna. So even it may be a very simple profession, but you do it for Krishna, that is perfection. Worship of the Lord through performing our own duty. You can attain perfection. Srila Prabhupada explains here, from a morning walk in Mayapur. Prabhupada said, why a Sudra artificially should be a Brahmana? Let him remain a Sudra. And if he follows strictly the rules and regulations of Sudra, he'll also be as good as a Brahmana. Even if he remains a Sudra and does accordingly, he will get the same position as devotee. Swakarmana tam abhyacharyasam. He'll get the perfection. So we don't have to worry about what is our position in society. That's not important. Actually, modern society, we're all Sudras. You may work in a big corporation. That is also Sudra work. You're sitting in the big office of the multinational corporation. That is Sudra work. You're an engineer, Sudra. So why should the Sudra become a Brahmana? He doesn't need to. Let him remain a Sudra. If that's his nature, let him remain a Sudra. But he should follow the rules and regulations of Sudra. Then he's as good as a Brahmana. He may remain a Sudra, and he does the work. He will get the same position as devotee. Right? And the devotees, among the devotees, there's no question of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. Everyone is devotee. That is perfection. Doesn't matter what kind of work you have, what kind of job you're doing. If you're doing it for Krishna, you're doing it according to the Shastra, rules and regulations, that is devotee. You get the position of a devotee. We want to bring everyone to that platform, to become devotees. Get them to engage in Krishna conscious activities. It doesn't matter what is our position. Materially, we may be the lowest, but it's not important. If we are doing it for Krishna, that's important. We're following scriptures, we're working for the pleasure of Krishna, we'll get perfection. Prabhupada explains, for the big scale, this is required. In big scale, you cannot make all of them as brahmanas or sannyasis. No, that is not possible. If you want to make the whole human society perfect, then the Krishna consciousness movement should be introduced according to Krishna's instruction. So Prabhupada understood human nature. And he's saying, you cannot make everyone a Brahmana and sannyasi. You know, when Prabhupada was beginning the Krishna consciousness movement, it appeared like that Prabhupada wants to make everyone a Brahmana, and the Brahmanas will go on, some of them will become sannyasis. But no, that wasn't Prabhupada's plan. Prabhupada knew not everybody will be Brahmanas and sannyasis, but they can be Krishna conscious. Prabhupada said, make the whole human society perfect. This Krishna consciousness movement should be introduced according to Krishna's instruction. So everyone has a nature, let them engage that nature in Krishna's service. Not that everybody has to become a Brahmana and sannyasi, that's not required. Just simply chant Hare Krishna, become devotee, hear about Krishna and the association of devotees. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to say, stay in whatever position you're in. Don't change your position. Just stay in that position and hear about Krishna. Right? Stane stita shruti gatan tanvan manobhye ye prayasha jitopi asitais trilokya. Lord Chaitanya, this is a prayer from the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken by Lord Brahma, and Lord Chaitanya liked this verse very much because it puts the emphasis on hearing, that you have to hear about Krishna. You have to hear. It's not important to change your position. That's not required. Stay in whatever position you're in, but hear about Krishna. That is important. So Prabhupada explains, now we are picking up some of them best. That is another thing. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, para upakara, why a certain section should be picked up. The whole mass of people will get the benefit of it. Then it is required. Systematic. Then we have to introduce this Varnashram Dharma. It must be done perfectly, and it is possible, and people will be happy. So Prabhupada is quoting Lord Chaitanya here, para upakar, for the benefit of others, right? Bharata bhumiti haila manushya janmajar janma sartaka kare kara para upakar. Lord Chaitanya was fond of this verse. He said, those who are born in Bharatvarsh are very fortunate. So they should make their lives perfect. And then, when they're perfect in Krishna consciousness, then they should make others perfect also. And so Prabhupada was saying, why only a few people should be picked up? The whole mass of people should get the benefit of it. Everyone. Prabhupada liked to think big. He didn't just think only the few people who became devotees. He wanted to give this knowledge to everyone. So Prabhupada said, we have to introduce this Varnashram Dharma. At the same time, Prabhupada said that it wouldn't be possible in this age to reintroduce Varnashram Dharma. But he said, even if we just have the small segment of Varnashram Dharma, he said it will be very good to show people how nice this system works. If we follow the Varnashram Dharma, how nice it organizes society for everyone's benefit. And Prabhupada said, people will be happy. People will be happy if they're properly situated according to their nature and their basic needs are provided. So we want to try to organize these kind of things. So here's what we've been covering so far. on this unit, right? We began lesson 1, Bhagavad Gita as it is. Lesson 2, Dharmakshetri. We spoke about Kurikshetra, different things, the advantage of the holy place. Lesson 3, we heard about Varnashram Dharma in the Bhagavad Gita. Then we went on to lesson 4, contents of the Gita summarized, Dharma, sense control, transcendental Krishna consciousness, and today we've spoken about Varnashram Dharma, a support to Krishna consciousness. Right? We want to encourage Krishna consciousness, and Varnashram Dharma helps it. When we follow Varnashram Dharma, then it will help people to come to Krishna consciousness. Here's Prabhupada's quote, everything is there in the scriptures, authoritative scripture. If we take advantage of these books, we are taking so much labor to present. You can understand the science of Krishna very perfectly, and your life becomes successful. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. All right, now we can go on to another lesson today because this is just a small lesson. So we'll go back to another lesson. Okay, so let me see. Are you able to see this slideshow?
Yes, Maharaj.
You can see it okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, we're going on now to unit 2 of this section. We're going to hear now about the yoga ladder and jnana in the Bhagavad Gita. All right, here you can see four lessons: the yoga system, yoga ladder, bhakti yoga, and the topmost yogi. We're going to start today with the yoga systems. Okay, the unit aims to help students understand the yoga ladder and aspects of jnana, enhance the student's ability to preach the superiority of bhakti over other yoga systems and apply it in their own life, and to deepen their appreciation of the main principles of Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission. Okay, here's the different points we want to try to look over. We won't cover everything today, but we can begin it today. overview of chapter 3, Karma Yoga. So it begins with the question by Arjuna, which one do you want me to do? Say one thing. Do you want me to fight or not? That was the beginning of the chapter. And then Krishna explains how Karma Yoga, remember we did that exercise, we showed Karma Yoga is superior to Karma Sannyas. We spent some time on that. And then the chapter goes on to describe about Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. Karma Kanda is material activities. And the idea is from Karma Kanda we should come to Karma Yoga. Karma Kanda is material activities for our own benefit, and Karma Yoga is working for the Supreme, offering the results to the Supreme. And then we have this Atmarati, no duty. We spoke about the Acharya. This afternoon we heard about Prabhupada, the Acharya, who set the example, teach by example, the Acharya principle. Everyone should be an Acharya, we should show the right example, because people will follow others. You're vegetarian, other people also want to be vegetarian. And Krishna, he sets the example. And then we heard, don't disturb the attached. People are attached, the ordinary people are attached. Don't disturb them, but show an example to them. That's important. And then the last part of the chapter, which we still have to look at, that's about the enemy, the eternal enemy, lust. So we'll have a look at that at some point. Here's Arjuna's question, right? Someone like to read for me there? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Puja Mata.
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Arjuna Uvacha Atha Kena Payuktoyam Papam Charati Purushaha Anichannapi Varshneya Balat Ivam Niyojitaha. Translation: O descendant of Vishnu, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged to by force? Bhagavad Gita 3.36.
Thank you. So Arjuna's question. And you can see the title, we put on top of the screen here. Nitya Vairena, lust, the eternal enemy. Right? Oh. So, how does Krishna answer this question? Oh, it's an exercise for you. Read your allotted verse and purport. Identify general principles from Krishna's analysis of lust. And select a representative to present the principle. So, we have time for this. Let me see how many verses we have. Oh, 3. And how many people are we here?
44, Maharaj.
44?
Yeah, correct.
So 1, 3, 6. We could 6, 8. We're going to have about, what, 8 people in a group. 6. Somewhere like that. You can put 8 people in a group. And here's the other question. How you would apply some of these principles in your own practice of Krishna consciousness, right? Read your verse and purport, identify general principles from Krishna's analysis of lust, and present your principles. And then, how will you apply some of these principles in your own practice of Krishna consciousness? All right, so we want We have 3 purports, 37, 39, and 41 of the 3rd chapter. So we want to have maybe 6 groups. And we have 45 people, so there'll be about 8, 6, 8, yeah, about 8 people in some groups and 7 in other groups. Can you manage that, Prabhu? Can you divide the devotees like that?
Yes, sure, Maharaj.
Maharaj, can you do the first slide also?
Yes, yes. We want you to identify the general principles from Krishna's analysis of lust. This is an important exercise. What are the general principles?
Maharaj, I have a question on this.
Yes, what's your question?
Maharaj, as we are 6 groups and 3 verses, so shall we understand that first 2 groups will take 1 verse, next group will take this group 2 and like this?
Yes, group 1 and 2 will take the first verse, and then group 3 and 4 will take this 39, and group 5 and 6 will take 41. Yes. The first 2 groups will take 37, and then the 3rd and 4th group will take 39, and the 5th and 6th group, the last 2 groups, will take 41. Is it all right? Clear? And then, how you could apply these principles in your Krishna conscious practice. So we'll give you, how much time do you need?
15 minutes.
No, 10 minutes maximum. 10 minutes, you only have to read 1 purport.
Okay.
So we are ready to break out now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.